So we were discussing the points, for that why should we have democracy, the benefits of. So the sixth point is that, finally democracy is better than other forms of government because it allows us to correct its own mistake. So, we all are humans and we tend to make mistakes. So if we've made some mistakes, we also have the, this thing option to correct it. So that's the beauty of having a democratic form of government. As you saw above, there's no guarantee that mistakes cannot be made in a democracy. No form of government can guarantee that. The advantage in a democracy is that such mistakes cannot be hidden for long. There is space for public discussions on these mistakes, and there's a room for correction. There's a room for correction, as in people can correct or go back if they find that certain part, or certain law is not correct. Either the rulers have to change their decisions or the rulers can be changed. This cannot happen in a non-democratic government. Let us sum it up. So now we've finally, now let's give the concrete everything. So what is democracy? Democracy cannot get us everything. Yes, it does not mean that if you're a democratic country there won't be any poverty in your country. It does not guarantee that, and is not the solution of all problems. Whether there's terrorism, whether there is you know death due to starvation or hunger, that all, it cannot give problems solutions to all those problems and many more. We agree, but it is clearly better than any other form of, or any other alternative that we know. But it is surely one thing that is sure, that a democratic country have a democratic form of government is better than having any other form of government. It offers us better chances of good decision. It is likely to respect people's own wishes and allows different kinds of people to live together. Even when it fails to do some of these things, it allows a way of correcting. There's always a scope of correction, and offers more dignity to its all citizens. That is why democracy is considered the best form of government, and that is why we conclude that it is democracy which is the best form of government. So here, see, we voters are angry and we are not going to take it anymore. The liberals have been arrogant. They have broken our trust in government. They stole our money. On June 28th, we are going to do what Canadians do best. We are going to vote them back in. So now, so this is a cartoon, which was published in Canada just before its parliamentary election of 2005. Everyone, including the cartoonist, expected the Liberals Party to to win once again. When the result came, the Liberal Party lost the election, but everybody wanted the Liberals to win the elections, but the results were not so. It is cartoon an argument against democracy or for democracy. So this is an this is an act of a democratic country, because here they are saying that some voters are saying that they are angry, and some are saying that this one is saying that the liberals have been arrogant. Okay, they have, some are saying that they've broken our trust in the government, others saying, someone is saying they stole our money, and so on. So Rajesh and Muzaffar read an article. It showed that no democracy has ever gone to war with another democracy. War takes place only when one of the two governments is non-democratic. So we've seen, so Rajesh and Muzaffar, they read an article that no two democratic governments have ever gone to war, and it is often been that that war only takes between two countries when one of them is non-democratic. The article said that this was a great merit of democracy. So this is the only, so this is a very great this thing merit of democracy, that why should we have merit, so there is no war. After reading the essay, Rajesh and Muzaffar have different reaction. Rajesh said that this was not a good argument for democracy, it was just a matter of chance. So the two people are saying, pointing out their views. So they say, it's just a matter of chance, it is not necessary whether the two governments are democratic or not. so that a war takes place or not. It is possible that in future democracies may have wars. Muzaffar, said that it could not be a matter of chance. So, but other Muzaffar saying, no, no, it cannot be a matter of chance. It is just because one of them was, no, they are saying that because both of them, two countries are democratic, that means no war. That's the fine. It is possible, but he's saying it's just a matter of chance. It is possible that in future democracies may have war, and it is so possible that in the future democracies may have war. Muzaffar said that it could not be a matter of choice. Democracies take decisions in such a way that it reduces the chances of. Which one of the two positions do you agree with, and why? So here, he's saying, no, no, democracies take decisions in a way that actually reduces the chances of going war. So both the points are valid, whether there in the case of war, or there will be a war or not, and whether the two countries which are having a conflict, whether they are democratic or not. Yes, it affects to an extent, but see, if we say that, it is not necessary also that the two countries have to, that out of the two countries one has to be non-democratic, so for a war to take place, because sometimes if both the countries want to, in the end, the intent is to save their country. So if they have no other option but to go on a war to save their people, then they will not have any other option than going into war, even when they are a democratic country. So now we talk about the broader meaning of democracy. We've seen what democracy means, that we've seen the how when we talk about democracy, we've seen actually the 6 points, that we discussed in the previous section. What are the arguments for democracy? That it attends the needs of the people, because the government is accountable, or there's a multi-party system in the elections, or it is based on consultations and discussion. It improves the quality of decisions taken, and also has a method to deal with conflicts and differences. So we see all the points which are there for that. Why should we have democratic government? Then we say that democratic government, they give peaceful solutions. Some say that, and some say that quality, we've seen that quality of government, sorry, the quality of government and social life is better in a democratic form of government. It is what, and it is not that democracy will do this, form of government will do this or this, but at the end, what the democracy affects on the people's, citizens lives, that is actually very important. So it just increases the dignity of a citizen. So here we've seen, and also because democracy gives us a chance to correct our decisions if we've made a wrong decisions or come up, because we all are humans and we tend to make mistakes. So we've done that. Now let's see that what is a broader meaning of democracy. In this chapter, we've considered the meaning of democracy in a limited and descriptive sense. We have understood democracy as a form of government. This way of defining democracy helps us to identify a clear set of, we say that, okay, these are the clear set of minimum features that a democracy must have. The most common form common form that democracy takes in the times is of a representative democracy. Matlab, the people who govern the country are elected by its citizens. You've already read about this in the previous classes. In the countries we call in the countries we call democracy, all the people do not rule, or majority is allowed to take decisions on behalf of all the people. Even the majority does not rule directly. The majority of people rule through the elected representative. This is necessary because you know this governing through being represented, elected through the by the people, through an medium of election and voting and etc. This is necessary because modern democracies involve such a large number of people that is physically impossible for them to sit together and take a collaborative. How can you say, how can 100 can we have a population of 1.7 billion, or in India, can they all sit together and take a decision? No, it's not possible. Humanly it's not possible. So what happens that the area, the map of India, like, it's divided constituency wise, state wise, so that better representation of people is also there, and everyone has a say in that. Even if they could, the citizens would not have the time, the desire, or the skill to take part in all the in all the decisions. So even, every person has a speciality in everything. Okay, they tell us that this is what they want, and this is how it should be, they tell, but it's not necessary that they have the skill to actually fulfill it. So what happens, it's through a selection procedure, the that is why elected representatives is there. This gives us a clear but minimal understanding of democracy. This clarity helps us to distinguish democracies from non-democracies, but it does not allow us to distinguish between a democracy and a good democracy. So we say that okay, our country is democratic and all, and no, but is it a good democratic? Is it, matlab, is it following, is it just for this name of saying that it's a democratic country, or is it really a good democratic country? So that is there. So here you can see unity, democracy, secularism, equalities. It's a television that's going on, and here are 50 glorious years. It's a newspapers, reading, drinking water, shelter, and now we are determined to remove poverty, provide drinking water, shelter, food, schools, hospitals. Thus, there has been spectacular progress. Tradition, the trade, foreign collaboration, export increases, and see. The famous cartoon by R.K. Lakshman comments on the celebration of the 50 years of independence. How many images on the wall do you recognize? Do many common feel that the way the common man in this thing cartoon does? So here, can you recognize the people who are there in the cartoon? She's Indira Gandhi, and okay. So these are all the cartoons of the politicians they've made. Mm, okay, so this person, I think it's Atal Bihari Bajpayee. The cartoon is almost like that. So here's a television radio, sorry, it's not radio, it's a television that's speaking out all these, unity, progress, secularism, and equality. It does not allow us to see the operation of democracy beyond government. For this, we need to turn to a broader meaning of democracy. So, we need to have a broader meaning of democracy. Sometimes we use democracy for organizations other than the government. Just read these statements. So, sometimes we might even read them, say it's a democratic organization other than the government using it for that. So we are a very democratic family. Whenever a decision has to be taken, we all sit down and arrive at a consensus. My opinion matters as much as my father's. I do not like teachers who do not allow students to speak and ask questions in the class. I would like to have teachers and I'd like to have teachers with democratic temperament. One leader and his family members decide everything in his party. How can they talk about democracy? These ways of using the word democracy go back to its basic sense of method of taking decisions. A democratic decision involves consultation and consent of all those who are affected by that decisions. Those who are not powerful have the same way, have the same say in taking the decisions as those who are powerful. This can also apply to a government or a family or any other organization. Thus, democracy is a principle that can be applied. So democracy is a principle, which can be applied to all spheres of life, whether you talk about a family or any organization or even a country. Sometimes we use the word democracy not to describe any existing government, but to set up an ideal, standard that all democracies must aim to become. We do also, use democracy because as a form of government, because we know it's very difficult to get the perfect of everything. We do realize that, and that is why we are saying that is, it's the nearest to ideal that we are looking for, that we want for a country like India. We aim to become one. True democracy will come to this country only when no one goes hungry to bed. In a democracy, every citizen must be able to, play equal role in decision making. For this, you don't need just an equal right to vote. Every citizen needs to have equal information, basic education, equal resources, and a lot of commitment. If we talk about these ideals, ideals seriously, then no country in the world is a democracy. If we talk about exactly, that these are the points which and what means to be to to have a democracy, then no country in this world would be actually called a democracy. It enables us to judge an existing democracy and then identify its weaknesses. So we can always identify the weaknesses, or which are existing in a system. It helps us to distinguish between a minimal democracy and a good democracy. So even the variety, or variance in democracy, whether they have the only the minimum uh, thing which can be called be a democracy, or is it a really a good democracy. In this book we do not deal with much of the expanded notion of democracy. Our focus here was to is here with some core institutional features of democracy as a form of government. Next year, you'll read more about a democratic society and ways of evaluating our democracy. At this stage, we just need to note that democracy can apply to many spheres of life, and that democracy can take many forms. There can be various ways of taking decisions, in a democratic manner, as long as the basic principle of the basic principle of consultation on an equal basis is accepted. The most common form of democracy in today's world is rule through people's elected representatives. Yeah, so this is the basic, that's the most common and accepted in throughout the world. We shall read more about it in chapter 4. But if the community is small, there can be other ways of taking democratic decisions. All the people can sit together in decisions, and take the decisions directly. This is how Gram Sabha should work in a village. Can you think about some other democratic ways of taking of ways of decision making? So of course, one way of another way of democrat is through a referendum. Every year, not as or not every year, like some countries, remember we saw the example of Chile, where the major Mr. Augusto, he said that no, the people want me only to rule. So he said, okay, let's go and have a referendum. So when they had, people were exactly opposite of that view. They said, no, we don't want you. It was a clear cut no. Find out the total number of eligible voters in your assembly constituency and your parliamentary constituency. Find out how many people can uh, fit into the largest stadium in your area. Is it possible for all the voters in your parliamentary or assembly constituency to sit together and have a meaningful discussion in your you, if you are studying in class 9, then of course you are very young to even vote. But still, wherever your house is located, that must be under in constituencies. You can see how many people are there in what is the population in your constituencies where your parents or relatives vote. And you can then imagine if it's like 1 lakh people. So can you think that 1 lakh people can sit together, make a decision? This is also means that no country is a perfect democracy. The features of democracy that we've discussed in this chapter provide only a minimum conditions. We say that okay, these are the, and then we say, these are the minimum conditions. That does not make it an ideal democracy. Every democracy has to try to realize the ideals of a democratic decision making. This cannot be achieved once and for all. This requires a constant effort. The constant effort is required to save and strengthen the democratic forms of decision making. What we do as citizens can make a difference to our country, more or less democratic. It actually can make a difference to what our country is like, or what we aim for. This is the strength and the weakness of democracy. The fate of the country depends not just on what the rulers do, but mainly on what we do as citizens, what we also do as citizens do. This is what distinguishes democracy from other um from other governments. Other forms of governments like monarchy, dictatorship, or one party rule do not recognize all citizens to take part in politics. So, the other forms of government, whether we talk about monarchy, dictatorship, and or only one party rule, which was there in Poland, then they do not require that all citizens to take part in politics. In fact, most of the democratic governments would like citizens not to take part in politics. But democracy depends on active political participation of but democracy is about giving this political participation by all all to all the citizens of the country. That is why a study of democracy must focus on democratic politics, and that is why the study of democratics, it should be about democratic politics that we are talking about. So, yes, we've seen that, what it means to have a democratic country, and what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So, here is an example. Okay, here are some of the information about four countries. Based on this information, how would you classify these uh, countries as whether they are democratic, undemocratic, or not sure? So, yeah. Let's see. Country A. People do not accept the country's official religion and do not have the uh, right to vote. So here they do not have the right to vote. That means it is undemocratic. Country B. The same party has been winning elections for the last 20 years, and of course it is undemocratic. How come that's actually maybe the party is working way too good, or they are making dirty tricks to win it. So maybe that might even be not sure also. Okay, because that can be both case, whether that party is actually winning by good means, or they are winning by bad means, or simply so it can be not sure. Ruling party uh, has lost in the last three elections. Then of course democratic, because even the ruler or whoever is governing, they are also losing. There is no independent election commission. Then if there is no independent election commission, then of course the elections are not taking place properly. Maybe there the rules are not rules and regulation for an election, those are not proper. So how can that be undemocratic? Of course it is undemocratic. Which of these is not a good argument in favor of democracies? So which is not a good argument? People feel free and equal in a democracy. Democracies resolve conflict in a better way. Of course, yes. Democracies government is more accountable. Yes, we need that. Democracies are more prosperous than others. So this is not a good argument in favor of mm, here. Clearly remember saying, it's saying that not a good argument. Okay, so that's the difference here. Now there are other exercises also here. We'll have a look here. Which of these uh, is not a valid reason for arguing that there is a lesser possibility of famine in a democratic country? Opposition parties can draw attention to hunger and starvation. Press Free press can report suffering from famine in different parts of the country. Government fears its defeat in the next election. People are free to believe in and practice any religion. That what is not a possible possibility of a mind, that there is, of course this is not, you cannot say that whether they believe or practice in any religion, that will reduce the chances of a famine. So that's not true at all. So that cannot be done. Now